All right, so our next section here is going to be all about setting the table. So there's going to be 3 sections we're going to do on the in-home. Setting the table, going through the financial inventory and really like digging into that need. And the last one's going to be closing the deal, right now at the option. So myself and Darlene, we're just going to talk really quick about how we set the table. I think it's important that how you set the table is how the rest of the appointment's going to go. How you set the table is how you're going to create control in the home. How you set the table is how you share with them, here's what we're going to do today. Okay, so I'll walk through mine real quick and I'll let Darlene walk you guys through. We're going to give you word for word exactly what we say when we walk into the home. So imagine knock, knock. Hey, Dean, I'm Jamie. I'm here for our appointment. Shoes on or off. Perfect. All right, is that the kitchen table right there? And I'm leading myself right to the kitchen table. I don't want to be on the couch. I've sold appointments on the couch. I've sold appointments the other day sitting on a milk crate in the back of a field. I've sold them on pickup truck benches. I've been everywhere. But the kitchen table is a place that there's trust. If you can get to their kitchen table and you can get them and their arms uncrossed at the kitchen table, the person who has their arms crossed at the kitchen table, I know I'm not getting the sale until I get their arms uncrossed. Okay, we're not going to dig into all the different psychological ways you can do that. But for me, my goal is to get to the kitchen table, being welcomed into their environment. And I think one of the most important things is if you guys are looking at this table right here, if I'm on the other side of the table from Dean, there's a line in the sand. It's me versus you. I'm here to sell you insurance. Are you going to buy or are you not going to buy? Whereas if I'm either sitting on the same side of the table as Dean or I'm sitting here at the head of the table and Dean and Darlene are sitting here, I basically have my arm around them saying, hey, let me wrap you in this life insurance blanket and we're going to protect your family, okay? So I'm here to help. I think that's really, really important. So I sit down at the table. The first thing that I do is I slide my state license across the table, and then you guys have seen me holding this red folder all day. You're probably wondering what the heck's in it. Inside of it, I've got my credibility sheet, and I've also got my financial inventory as well as a client profile. And this ends up what I leave behind for the client, which we're going to go over that here at the end. But I pull out, this side, and I've got my client profile, I've got my credibility sheet, and I've got my financial inventory. And the first thing that I do, and I'll be like, hey guys, this is my state license just so y'all can verify that I am who I say I am. And this is the card that y'all filled out. Dean, can you just confirm for me that information, it looks correct? There's no misspellings, the address is correct. All that information's correct? Okay, perfect. Gotcha. Hey, most people typically fill this out for XYZ reason. Most people typically fill this out because they want to leave some money behind for somebody, they want to pay off a mortgage, they want to take care of their final expenses, whatever it is. I'm assuming that's what y'all were looking for. So this is very assumptive. This is different than, hey, why'd y'all fill this out? Well, we were just looking for information. We're just looking for quotes. Just give me the info. Versus, hey, most people fill it out for XYZ reason. Is that what you were looking for? Which one of those things? And now I'm going to dig into it. I think it's really important at this point. I always revoice back to them what they said. Always revoice back to them what they said. So, hey, we just wanted to make sure that if something happened, that our son Johnny would be taken care of. He wouldn't have any burdens left behind. So, Dean, Darlene, what I'm hearing from you guys is that you wanted to make sure if something happened to either of you, that there's some income replacement for the surviving spouse so you can take care of your son, make sure that all the bills are paid, the lifestyle doesn't change even though you lost somebody. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. That's why we filled it out. So I'm revoicing back to them why they filled it out. So now that I've presented, here's my license, here's the lead card, we confirmed the information, here's why y'all filled it out, I now revoiced it back to you. Now at this point, let's get started. So the first thing that I do is I throw my hands up and I say, hey guys, no fancy presentation. And this is where the arms uncross. Every single time, the shoulders get let down. Hey guys, no fancy presentation, I'm not the insurance sales guy. I'm just the underwriter. My job is to make a recommendation and to figure out what you guys are most likely eligible for. So here's what we're gonna do. At this point, I open up my folder. I got my credibility sheet, which has all of the logos of the different carriers, and I slide that in front of them. Guys, so I'm a broker. I work with all of the insurance carriers. I don't work for any of them. I can shop around for y'all. Does that make sense? Yeah, I can shop around. Okay, perfect. And I'm also what's considered non-captive. Captive is like, XYZ, insurance agency down the street. If I worked for that company, I'd be required to show you their products, whereas I don't have any loyalty to any of these companies. It doesn't really matter to me, guys, who you end up with, or even if you end up with anybody. My job is just to make a recommendation for you and see who you guys might be eligible for. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Hey guys, and just so you know, I've been doing this for a while. I've sat with about 1,500 families in the last year and a half, so I'm pretty good at my job. And I try to treat everybody like they're my family, like they're my mom or my dad. So you guys okay if I'm totally honest with you throughout this entire appointment? So what that means is that if it doesn't make sense financially at all, I'm gonna straight up tell y'all not to do it. But if we find the need and it makes sense, I'm gonna make a very strong recommendation in what direction I think you guys can go. Is that fair? Okay, perfect. Awesome, let's go ahead and get started. Here's how it's going to work. 2 minutes on your health, 2 minutes on your finance. Based on how you answer, I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to show you guys a couple options, and if we see something that makes sense, we're going to submit a request for coverage to see what you qualify for. Okay, and I need to disclaim this real quick, guys. There's a difference between a quote and a qualification. We're going to get some quotes here today, but that doesn't mean you can get them. You guys ever seen the F-150 commercial that says $199 for a brand new 2022 F-150, and then you show up and it's $650 a month because they run your credit? We're not running your credit. It's based on your age, your health, your height, your weight, your gender, the whole deal. We're going to figure out what you might qualify for. I'm going to show you some options, and then we're going to submit a request for coverage to see if you qualify. Does that process sound okay? Sounds okay. I've now gotten permission to go through that entire process, and now at that point, my job is to make sure that I don't screw it up. And in the next couple sections, we'll talk about kind of how we present a solution, how we find the need, et cetera. But at that point, I have set the table. When you set the table, you avoid most major objections. I went through and I went over shopping. You're not going to shop around anymore because I'm a broker. Okay? And we're going to submit a request for coverage today because we don't even know if you can qualify, so we overcame think about it. Those are some of the two major objections you're going to get. Think about it's probably the number one objection you're going to get in the home, and you'll stop getting think about it when you get really, really good at setting the table. This is not a section on overcoming objections. We'll talk about some of that stuff, but this is setting the table. If you get really, really strong at this, whether it's on the phone or it's in the home, our job is to lead, guide, and direct people. We get really, really good at lead, guide, and direct. People will follow. So, Darlene, would love to hear how you set the table.
Well, mine's so similar, so yeah. I mean, I can go through it.
Give us the word tracks, even if it's similar. I think it's important that people hear it from somebody else.
There's definitely a couple key things that I do get into. So when I get to the door, announcing myself, I'm Darlene. I'm here to get that information out to you that you requested. I'm making sure from my notes, if they did have a spouse, that the spouse is there. I'm not going to sit on a one-legged appointment. Definitely going to make sure that I make my way to a table. Have bread and business just about everywhere as well, but if there is a table and they haven't just moved in and they have some furniture, we get to the table. Same thing with the seating arrangement. When I do get to the table, I've got my state license in front of my clipboard. On my clipboard is going to be my folder just like Jamie has, and then I have my business card. So I have my business card there, I've got my state license, put that in front of them. I'm one of the local state field underwriters here for the county. They just had me show this to you. Would you like to take a picture of it? Most of them, they're kind of already disarmed. They're like, no, I don't need that. I'm good. But I wait for them, just to see where their trust level is. From there, I'm getting into the lead card asking, so what prompted you to fill this out? If I'm not getting a lot of feedback, I am going into the 3 reasons why they would fill it out. Most people that fill this out, they're looking to make sure that their family's protected. If they do pass away, that there's no financial hardship or burden with a burial or cremation. Others, they're looking to replace income. So if your husband passes away, we have that money coming in for some time to replace for bills. And others want to leave a legacy behind for family. What does that sound like to you? I'm trying to get that information out of them. This is crucial, is to not just keep going. You have to sit there and you have to get to their why. Because if you don't get to their why, you're just going to be a quote person and you haven't drawn any emotions out of them, and you're not going to help that family. So with that part, I really am trying to figure out, what it is that they're looking for, why they filled it out, and there's some questions that I'll ask to prompt it if I'm not getting that kind of response. Have they lost someone recently? Did you lose coverage? And then if they lost someone, what was that like? Did they have coverage? Did they not have coverage? The more they open up, the more receptive they're going to be to what you're going to tell them. So once I get to that point, I've already figured out what they're looking for. Same thing, I go back, I'm going to re-announce what they're looking for to get their confirmation. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. Explain the process to them. This process is super simple. What I'm going to do, I don't get to make any decisions for the insurance companies. I work with all of them, but not for them. I would love to approve you. I don't get to make that choice. But what we're going to do, I'm going to go through a couple quick health questions. Gives me a good idea with all these different carriers, which ones are going to be the best suited that I think we might be able to qualify for. Real quick through financial, state wants me to make sure that these are going to be affordable plans to you. Last thing I want to do is put your family in a position where you have coverage this month and then next month you can't afford it, and then they're vulnerable and I didn't do my job. And I also want to make sure you understand this coverage. You said that this is the first time that you have filled out a request for life insurance. I want you to feel comfortable with what we're looking at. Get them to agree there. So there's a lot of points throughout it that I'm getting them to agree back on what we're doing and the process. Tell them the process is simple. Really what we're going to do, I'm going to go through those questions. I'm going to put together some options for us of what I think is going to be the best recommendation for your family. We're going to pick the one that is the best fit. And what we're going to do, I can't make that decision for the insurance company. We're going to submit a request for coverage and see what they come back with. Sometimes we're lucky, approved in home. Most of the time we're not going to know. It's going to take a couple days. That's okay. I've got you. If we don't get approved from the first carrier, I'll continue to find another one where, we'll be more likely to get accepted. But what they're going to look at, just so you know, as I said on the phone, there's no blood, there's no physical. So the way they're going to know if you qualify for this is through your MIB report. It's your medical information tied to your social. You have one, I have one. That's how they're going to know your hospitalizations, surgeries, prescriptions. They are going to want to have an ID. Make sure you're you. We don't have your stunt double, your evil twin. I take a moment there to kind of be a little bit of playful with them, because right after that I'm going to hit them with the banking. So I get a little bit playful, like just want to make sure we don't have a stunt double here, that you are who you say you are. That's why I'm here anyway. And then last is method of payment. They want to make sure you have a way to sustain the plan. They're not going to charge you till you have been approved, but ultimately we want to be approved for this coverage, right? Getting another confirmation. At that point, I'm in. They've agreed to the process. They've agreed to. I'm going to show them options. We're going to pick one. We're going to submit an application, and I have kind of cleared the table of any kind of objections that are going to come later, because if you set it in advance, you're not going to have as many that come later. I didn't know you needed my banking, or why do you need my social? What's that for? They already know the process because you laid it out for them.
That's it. Getting them to know the process ahead of time and getting really, really good at saying, here's what we're going to do today. Here's what we're going to do today. If you guys struggle with taking control, how many times can you say, here's what we're going to do? I just challenge you to say that more, either on the phone, challenge you to say that more in the home. Here's what we're going to do. Setting the table properly is going to help you avoid all the objections at the end. That's our section on setting the table.